Your team doesn't just get magically mentally tougher once the postseason rolls around. In fact, it'll just reveal the habits that they've been building or not up until that point. Because in the postseason, the pressure is greater, the crowds are bigger, the lights are brighter, and everything just feels more important. So, how do we prepare our players as they head into postseason without overcomplicating things or just throwing something brand new at them? Well, if I haven't met you, I'm Coach Bre. I am a 14-year head volleyball coach. I'm also a mental performance coach for girl athletes. And thankfully, luckily, I've been in a lot of these situations. We've won state for the past 4 seasons, so I definitely know how it feels to be heading into a postseason that feels like a lot. This season especially, we have the target on our back. People don't want to see us win anymore. So everyone more than ever wants to take us down. So we're feeling the pressure. My team's feeling the pressure of these consecutive state championships as well. So I'm going to go into how I'm preparing my team for the postseason and things that you can just draw from to help prepare your team for some of this postseason excitement and also pressure that comes with it. So first thing that we do is we tighten things up. We don't add a bunch of new things. All right. Your athletes right now actually don't need new, they need familiar. And when the brain senses that pressure, it actually craves predictability in those moments. So instead of just brand new drill ideas or like all these things, let's tighten up what got us here. And what that looks like in our gym is that we're still scoring everything. So I have a video all about how we structure practice and we score things to make it really competitive. So you can head there after this if you want to check that out. But we add in just a little bit more of game-like situations. So end of game, we'll replicate the score. I coach volleyball. So we'll put the score at 23-all and we've got to finish. And so things like that are putting them in situations that they're probably going to be in the postseason. We also can replicate as much as possible some of the environment that we're going to be in. So at state for us, our serving area gets shorter, so we actually replicate that. We actually put a piece of tape down where the new service area would be. So it's shortened by a couple of feet. So we just help our players kind of get familiar with that. Sometimes I've done it where I've like over the loudspeaker piped in some noise just so that they practice having to communicate in a louder environment. So anything that you can do to help replicate kind of what they're going to be experiencing so that they can train that pressure before they get into it. Okay. The other thing we do is we anchor into routines instead of focusing on results. So a lot of times when we get to the postseason, especially for us, it's like, oh, we've got to win that 5th state title. We've got to do this. We've got to do that. And it can just get really easy to focus on the outcomes. And so we get back to what are our routines that help us. And so the routines that we have in our program, especially when it comes to the mental game, we do our 3-2-1 brave every day before practice. So that is our daily mindset routine. I actually break this down in my free training for coaches. So if you go to coachfreetraining.com, you can see everything that I include in this, but it's a very simple 5 to 7 minute activity that athletes do. They bring their binders to the board at the end of pre-practice, the start, like right before we break off into and do our team practice. And they write down their 3 affirmations, their 2 minutes of journaling. So I rotate the prompts through to kind of help them focus on what I want them to focus on that day. One thing they're grateful for, one piece of evidence that one of their affirmations is coming true. And then I do a really short visualization with them where they visualize their affirmations. And this is all found based on a workshop at the beginning of the season. So that they're very familiar with what this routine is. But again, it's kind of getting back to that like consistency and making sure that we're focusing their mental game on what we want them to focus on. Because if we don't, they're going to get carried away with what they're nervous about, what they're worried about, the fear, all of that. So we keep those routines in place. We remind them of their tools, like their snapback routine that they have in those moments where they're feeling overwhelmed or they make a mistake. We remind them of their pre-competition routine. So every athlete has their own pre-game routine, 3 things that they do. And it doesn't have to be like super intense, but 3 things that they do to get themselves mentally ready. And so everything that we can do to get them back to like, here are your tools, here's what routines you have. So that when their brain inevitably goes to the like, what if, and the worry and the fear and all of that, that they have things that they can anchor back to. Okay. The next one is normalize nerves and reframe pressure. We did this in practice yesterday because we have our first game in districts on Thursday. So every athlete feels nerves in the postseason, and that's normal. Okay. We don't want to like eliminate them. We want to use them. So we tell our athletes that how you interpret nerves and excitement, actually, it's interesting because they feel the same way in our bodies, right? Our body has a psychological or physiological response to the nervousness, right? The increased heart rate, the sweaty palms, the dry mouth, like all of that is nervousness. But when you're really excited about something, that also feels the same way. It's all with how we label it. And so I connect the dots for them that your body's actually preparing you to do something that you care about. So it's okay. Sometimes if it gets too much though, right, that's when it can impact how you play. And so we give them tools like box breathing, their pregame routines, visualizations, like things like that that can help them bring them back to like the level that is appropriate for using those nerves for what they're intended for. Okay. I had them do a little exercise yesterday where I had them write out, like, what are you nervous for in the postseason? What are you excited about? And sometimes athletes think, or we think, like if we name some of these things and bring them out into the open, like, hey, I'm nervous about not getting to state. I'm nervous about, crumbling under the pressure. I'm nervous about letting people down. We think like if we say that, it'll happen. It's not necessarily true. Okay. Name it to tame it is something that Bre Brown says all the time. And so just naming your emotion and how you're feeling actually helps you process it a little bit. And that's true for athletes too. So we actually went in a circle, named all these things. And then I picked up on some clues as a coach that like, okay, a lot of people are worried about not playing to their potential. A lot of people are worried about crumbling under pressure. And so I put up on the board, like our tools for handling pressure. And I had the athletes throughout practice right on the board. What do we already have in our toolkit for when the pressure gets a lot and we're feeling it? Like, what can we come back to? And so at the end of practice, we looked at it and they had said like our snapback routine, touching in the middle of the circle. So in volleyball, we come together between each point. So making eye contact with people, cracking a joke, going back to your affirmations. They had all these things to remind themselves of like, hey, like we have tools to handle this, and pressure is a privilege. You've heard that. I know that that's a saying that we hear a lot as coaches, and maybe your athletes do too, but it is true. Half the teams in our league are not in the position that we are right now heading into the postseason, meaning you've earned the right to feel this way. And so even though it might feel uncomfortable, that's okay. Uncomfortable doesn't mean bad. Uncomfortable means new. Okay. And this is new for a lot of athletes. So that's really helpful to kind of normalize the fear, but also, and the nerves, but also give them and remind them of the tools that they have to be able to navigate that. And the last thing I'll give you, just kind of little bonus things, is what we're doing tomorrow at practice, is create a postseason mantra. So throughout the season, they've had their affirmations that have guided them. They have their visualizations. They have really intentional ways that they're like focusing their mindset. But in the postseason, it almost feels like a brand new season. And so I like to have them anchor to a mantra just for the postseason. And I want it to be short, sticky. It becomes an anchor. So things like be gritty, hold the line, whatever that means for them. Play present, built for this. I've got this, just something that they can like repeat in their head. And again, this could be their reset word. So the reset word is found through their snapback routine. So they've been using their reset word all season. But I sort of like having a little twist for the postseason when it gets a little bit, just the stakes are higher and they can feel a little different. And so they're going back to something that's really empowering. I just love be gritty. It's just like whatever's happening, like be gritty, embrace the suck. It's just whatever is going to be empowering for them. And they can kind of put that in places where they can see it on their journals or on their lock screen on their phone or things like that. So that is really helpful. Just a couple of tools to head in the postseason. Now, if you feel like your athletes are really feeling the pressure, maybe this is like a first time that they're experiencing it. For us, it's like trying to defend 4 state titles. They can feel like a lot. So if your athletes are really feeling the pressure, I have a video all about how to help athletes rise to the pressure through mental training in this next slide. So head there next. I have 3 quick things that I do in practice to help replicate some of that pressure in practice, and tools that your athletes can use to manage some of that feeling of the pressure. So I will see you over in that video.